Every secret I typed into Slack ended up on my boss's desk. At first, I thought it was paranoia. Then I set a trap and uncovered a betrayal that shattered my entire team. It started small, almost laughable, really a joke I made in Slack about how our boss loved to say synergy, but never defined it the next morning during the Monday meeting. He chuckled and repeated the line, word for word, eyes sweeping the room as if searching for the guilty smile. My stomach twisted because only 3 people had seen that message, and I hadn't expected it to escape the private channel. At first, I brushed it off. Coincidence, maybe, or he had said it himself before, but then it happened again. 2 days later, when I vented to Maria about staying late to finish his report, suddenly he mentioned in front of everyone how grateful he was for employees who didn't mind sacrificing evenings. He looked right at me when he said it. My pulse raced as heat flushed my cheeks. Someone was feeding him my words. By the end of the week, I was paranoid, glancing at Slack windows like they might betray me, wondering who among my coworkers had turned into the office mole. Messages felt sharp. Heavy, every emoji suddenly suspicious. The channel where I felt safest had become a cage. I typed less, joked, less, kept my complaints sealed behind my teeth, but silence didn't help because even casual details, things I hadn't shared widely, slipped out. Like when I told Sam in confidence that I was applying for a leadership program the very next day, my boss asked me casually if I was thinking about moving into management, as if he had read the message himself. That night, I sat in my apartment, lights, dim laptop, open, scrolling through every chat thread, replaying conversations in my head. The walls seemed to close in. I wasn't just imagining it. I knew there was a leak, and it was someone close enough to read my words and bold enough to whisper them upward. I decided then that I couldn't let it go. I needed to know who I could trust because working in that office suddenly felt like walking blindfolded across a minefield. I was one wrong step away from ruining not just my reputation, but my career. The plan was still a fog, but the drive was clear. I would set a trap, create messages no one else would know about, and watch where they surfaced. A fake complaint, a harmless secret, a planted rumor, and then I would see which one reached his ears first. But as I shut my laptop and sat back against the couch, heart pounding, I wondered how far I was willing to go because once I caught the mole, I couldn't pretend things were normal again. And maybe the person I unmasked wouldn't be a stranger at all, but a friend I thought I trusted. Have you ever trusted coworkers with things you'd never say to your boss? The next morning, the office felt louder than usual. Keyboards clicking, phones ringing, laughter bubbling from the kitchen. But underneath the noise, I sensed something sharper, like whispers behind walls. My eyes tracked each coworker differently now, not as allies, but as suspects. Maria, my closest friend in the office, sat across from me, her eyes warm as always. She leaned in to whisper about the new intern's awkward introduction. I wanted to laugh, but a thought stabbed me. What if it was her? She knew most of my vents. She was there in nearly every thread. Still, she had defended me before, stood by me in meetings. Surely she wouldn't twist my words. Sam, on the other hand, was unpredictable, friendly, yet competitive, always angling for visibility. He was the one I'd told about the leadership program the very next day. My boss had cornered me about it. Coincidence, maybe. But Sam had the motive. If I looked at it through suspicious eyes, then there was Priya, soft-spoken, efficient, rarely gossiping. She barely joined Slack conversations at all, which almost made her the perfect mole. She never stood out, never argued, never complained. What if her silence wasn't shyness, but strategy? I caught myself staring too long at each of them, trying to read their faces as if guilt left a visible mark. Maria raised an eyebrow, asking if I was okay. I forced a smile, but inside I was unraveling. At lunch, I tested the waters. I dropped a small comment in our private channel just between Maria, Sam, and me. A fake complaint about the printer always jamming in the mornings. It was harmless, silly, but if my boss mentioned it tomorrow, I'd have my first clue. That afternoon, I worked with restless energy, glancing at Slack every few minutes, like the messages might betray themselves. When 5 rolled around and people started packing up, I stayed behind, typing another bait, this time in a private DM with Priya, a harmless secret that I was considering cutting my hair short, something no one else knew, just a small breadcrumb. When I finally left the office, the sky outside was bruised with twilight, the sidewalks humming with city noise, but my mind was on fire. Every message felt like a clue, every glance like a mask, and the trap was set. That night, lying in bed, I replayed the possibilities over and over. Maria, with her easy laugh, Sam with his ambition, Priya with her silence, the puzzle pieces scattered. But tomorrow I would know if any of them had handed my words upward. I drifted into restless sleep, haunted by the thought that the mole might smile at me across the desk every single day. Would you suspect a close colleague of betraying your trust, or look first at the quieter coworkers? Morning meetings were always a blur of charts, updates, and half-awake smiles, but that day, every word felt like a test. I watched my boss closely, waiting to see if he would repeat the bait I had planted. My heart hammered with every sentence until he paused, shuffled his notes, and sighed about the printer again. I don't know why it keeps jamming every morning. Someone should call IT before it drives us all crazy, he said with a chuckle. My stomach dropped because that wasn't coincidence, that was my line from Slack. Only 3 people had read it, Maria, Sam, and me. I tried to keep my face neutral, but inside, suspicion burned bright. My eyes flicked toward them. Maria didn't react at all, she just jotted notes in her pad. Sam smirked like he always did, leaning back in his chair, maybe smug, maybe just bored. My pulse thudded in my ears. After the meeting, Maria caught up with me in the hallway, asking if I wanted to grab coffee. She seemed normal, cheerful, but my chest tightened with unease. Could she really smile like that, knowing she had sold me out? Or was I wrong? Maybe it was Sam all along, playing both sides to get ahead. Back at my desk, I checked my other trap, the message I had sent Priya about cutting my hair short. No mention from the boss yet, no comments from anyone. But that didn't ease me. If anything, it made the printer leak sting sharper. By lunchtime, my mind was spinning. I couldn't confront anyone, not yet. I needed another layer, another test. So I created one more bait this time, riskier, in the group channel with Maria and Sam. I typed casually, I heard management might be restructuring the team soon. It was vague enough to spark interest, but specific enough that if my boss repeated it, I'd know exactly where it came from. Maria replied with a shrug emoji. Sam replied with a wide-eyed face. Nothing more, but I imagined their eyes glinting as they read my words. The trap was set tighter. That evening, as I packed my bag, Sam walked by and joked, "Don't stay too late. You'll give the boss more reasons to call you his star employee." His grin was playful, but it scraped against my nerves like sandpaper. Did he know I suspected him? Was he teasing me or warning me? On the train ride home, the city lights blurred through the window while my thoughts tangled together. Maria's loyalty, Sam's ambition, Priya's quiet watchfulness. Someone was the leak and I was getting closer. The next day would decide it. The bait was waiting, and the truth would show itself in my boss's words. If your private messages leaked, would you confront your boss immediately or stay quiet and watch like I did? The morning air in the office felt different, charged like static before a storm. My stomach twisted as I logged into my computer, waiting for the meeting to start the bait about restructuring. Still fresh in my mind, my hands trembled against the keyboard. When the boss finally walked in, he didn't waste time on small talk. He leaned on the table and said, "I've been hearing chatter about possible team restructuring. Let me be clear, nothing is decided yet, and spreading rumors only makes things harder." His eyes swept the room sharp and heavy. I froze because those exact words had come from me, typed into Slack where only Maria and Sam had read them. Heat crawled up my neck. My suspicion zeroed in two suspects, both within arm's reach, one of them smiling at me. Right now, I dared a glance. Maria's face looked blank, carefully blank, her pen moving over her notepad. Without pause, Sam, on the other hand, gave the tiniest smirk, the kind of smile that said he knew something I didn't. I spent the rest of the meeting half listening, half watching my coworkers. Every cough, every glance, every sigh felt like coded messages. The walls themselves seemed to echo with betrayal. By the time the meeting ended, my decision was clear. I needed undeniable proof. At lunch, Maria asked if I was okay. I nodded, forced a smile, but my throat felt tight. She offered to share her sandwich like always, and for a moment, I wondered if I was wrong, if suspicion was poisoning my trust. Sam, meanwhile, joked loudly with the intern, bragging about a project he'd barely touched, ambition dripping from his words. I thought about how much he stood to gain by being the boss's invisible ally. That afternoon, I set another trap, this one layered deeper in a private DM with Sam. I wrote, thinking of switching departments maybe. Marketing would be a better fit. Then I waited heart-pounding. If the boss mentioned it tomorrow, Sam would be caught. If not, maybe Maria was the true mole hiding behind her friendship. Before leaving, I stopped by Priya's desk. She looked up startled. I asked casually if she ever felt like our messages weren't private. She hesitated, then whispered, "Sometimes it feels like someone's always watching." Her words chilled me because they sounded too much like my own thoughts. On the train home, I replayed everything. The smirk, the blank face, the whispered warning tomorrow would bring clarity, but clarity might also mean breaking trust with someone I saw every day, someone I laughed with, worked with, leaned on. The truth was coming. I just didn't know if I was ready to face it. Who would you suspect first? The loud, ambitious coworker or the quiet, friendly one? The office felt colder than usual the next morning, even though the heater rattled steadily in the corner. I sat at my desk scrolling through emails, but really I was waiting for the meeting, the moment the trap would spring my private DM to Sam, still fresh in my mind. When the team gathered, my boss greeted us with his usual tight smile. Then almost casually, he looked in my direction and asked, "Have you been thinking about marketing lately? I hear they've got some interesting openings." My stomach lurched. My trap had worked. Those words came straight from my fake message to Sam. There was no denying it. Now Sam was the leak. I forced a laugh, muttered something about exploring options, but inside, my blood boiled. Sam leaned back in his chair, arms folded with that same half grin like he enjoyed watching me squirm. He wasn't just leaking, he was proud of it. The rest of the meeting blurred. Past numbers, graphs, deadlines, all noise compared to the hammering of my heart. By the time it ended, I was shaking with both triumph and dread. Triumph because I had proof, dread because proof meant I had to decide what to do with it. At lunch, Maria pulled me aside again, her voice low. "Something's off with you lately. You're quieter than usual." I wanted to spill everything. Tell her I knew Sam was the mole, but the words jammed in my throat. What if she already knew? What if she was part of it too? Meanwhile, Sam strutted around the office, tossing jokes, shaking hands with managers like he owned the place. I wanted to confront him right there, shout that I caught him, but I held back. If I accused him without a plan, it could backfire. He could twist the story, say I was paranoid, maybe even convince the boss I was the real problem. That evening, after everyone left, I stayed behind, staring at Slack channels, the glowing text boxes suddenly sinister. I scrolled through old conversations, piecing together every detail that had escaped upward, realizing how carefully he must have chosen what to leak enough to look loyal without showing his hand too soon. On the train ride home, I weighed my choices, expose him and risk the fallout, or gather more evidence and tighten the trap further. Part of me wanted justice immediately, but another part whispered, patience. Wait, one more move, and he'll hang himself with his own rope. By the time I got home, my decision was clear. I would not confront him yet. I would set one final bait, one so sharp and specific he couldn't wriggle free if he repeated it. The game wasn't over, not yet, and tomorrow would bring the next move. Would you risk your job to expose the mole immediately, or wait to collect more proof before acting? I woke before dawn, restless, the weight of the secret pressing against my chest. I brewed coffee strong enough to sting my tongue and opened Slack on my laptop. The quiet glow of the screen felt like a battlefield, and today I was laying my final trap. I typed carefully, not too obvious, not too vague, just enough to be irresistible. thinking about telling HR that some late night work hours are becoming unhealthy for the team, maybe even unfair. I sent it directly to Sam, then deleted the draft from my notes to be sure it couldn't be traced anywhere else. If my boss repeated this, I would know without a shred of doubt. At work, the hours crawled. I watched Sam from the corner of my eye. He laughed too loudly during stand-up, threw in extra comments about how much he valued teamwork. Ironic, really, since he was carving at it from the inside. My heart pounded every time he glanced my way. Did he suspect I was baiting him? Or was he too smug to notice? By afternoon, my nerves were threadbare. I left a little earlier than usual, feigning exhaustion, but in truth, I needed to breathe outside the office walls. I walked the city streets aimless, my mind replaying every possibility. Maybe he would slip tonight, maybe tomorrow. Either way, the trap was baited. The next morning, the boss strode into the meeting room with a scowl, his tone clipped. I've heard some people think our late-night culture is unfair. Let me remind you, this is a competitive industry, and we all need to make sacrifices. The words struck like lightning. My stomach flipped, it was done. Sam had delivered my message straight to him, and now there was no denying it. My proof was solid. I glanced across the table. Sam sat relaxed, arms folded, eyes flicking toward me for just a second. Smug, almost daring me to react as if he wanted me to know he was the boss's secret ear. But that second gave me something else clarity. This wasn't loyalty, this was power. He wasn't protecting the team. He was protecting himself. Using my words to climb closer to the top, my hands curled into fists under the table, but I forced a calm expression. After the meeting, I walked back to my desk with deliberate steps. I wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. I needed a plan. Something that wouldn't just accuse him, but expose him undeniable in front of everyone. The Slack window blinked on my screen as if mocking me, his messages sitting there, cheerful, casual, like we were friends, but I knew better. Now I had the receipts, the screenshots, the proof. I saved everything in a private folder, then leaned back, heart racing. Tomorrow. I would make my move tomorrow. The mole would be unmasked. Do you think setting digital traps for coworkers is fair? Or crossing a line that could backfire? That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every detail in my mind, proof stacked in a hidden folder on my laptop. Sam's smirk echoing in my head, the boss's clipped words burning in my ears. I should have felt relief the mole caught red-handed, but instead unease gnawed at me like a shadow, whispering that something still didn't add up. The next morning, I printed nothing, shared nothing. Instead, I walked in with calm, rehearsed determination. My plan was simple. I would gather one more piece of evidence this time, undeniable, not just whispers funneled up, but something that tied Sam directly to the betrayal. At my desk, Maria leaned in with a quiet smile. Rough night. She asked, her eyes kind, her voice genuine. I nodded, offering the excuse of poor sleep. She accepted it without pushing, but as she walked away, I noticed her Slack notifications flashing rapidly, messages flying back and forth faster than anyone else in the office. A seed of doubt planted itself deep in me. What if Sam wasn't acting alone? During lunch, I slipped into the break room early and checked the printer logs. Something I knew from a past project. They showed every document queued, and when my eyes landed on Maria's name, repeated dozens of times. Often late at night, my chest tightened. Why was she printing so much, and why only when the office was nearly empty? Back at my desk, Slack pinged a direct message from Sam. You seemed distracted in the meeting. Everything okay? I stared at the words, his casual tone covering sharp edges. I typed back, just tired, nothing to worry about, masking my thoughts while my pulse raced. That afternoon, the boss made an offhand remark that chilled me. I know some of you are questioning leadership, but rest assured I have eyes and ears everywhere. His gaze lingered a second too long, as if warning me directly. My stomach dropped. Had Sam told him even more than I imagined, or worse, was Maria feeding him too? By the end of the day, I had made my decision tomorrow. I wouldn't just bring proof of Sam's leak, I would test Maria as well. I drafted a new trap. This one split into two separate pieces. One line for Sam, another for Maria. Carefully crafted lies to see which one reached the boss first, or maybe both. Walking home the city, lights blurred around me, suspicion weaving through every thought. What if Maria's friendliness had only been cover? What if she was the true leak, and Sam her decoy? The web was thicker than I imagined. I saved the new traps into Slack messages ready to send in the morning. My hands trembling as I shut the laptop. Tomorrow would reveal not just the mole, but possibly an entire nest. Would you trust Maria's kindness, or suspect she might be hiding something bigger? The next morning, I walked into the office with a calm mask hiding the storm inside. I logged into Slack and set my twin traps. One message sent privately to Sam, one to Maria, each with its own bait carefully worded, so I would know exactly who passed it along. To Sam, I wrote, thinking of reporting late-night overtime to HR. Anonymously, they'd have a field day with our schedules. To Maria, I wrote, I heard a rumor the client project is going to be cut short, maybe even canceled altogether. Two lies planted like seeds waiting to sprout. I hit send and leaned back, heart hammering, my palms slick against the keyboard. From that moment, every glance, every whisper, every side conversation felt electric, like the walls themselves were listening. At lunch, Maria chatted with me as usual, cheerful, offering me half her salad. She didn't flinch, didn't falter, her face open and warm, but I couldn't relax. Not yet. Not until the meeting with the boss. Sam, meanwhile, swaggered around, tossing jokes at anyone who'd listen. He seemed even more self-satisfied today, as if already sitting on some secret he thought gave him power. By mid-afternoon, the boss called us all in his expression. Tight, his voice carrying an edge. I want to address something before rumors spread too far. My heart leapt. This was it, he continued. There is no truth to the idea that the client project will be canceled. We are fully committed. The words punched through me, cold and sharp. Maria's bait had reached him. She had repeated my lie. I sat frozen as he moved on to discuss deadlines. No mention yet of HR or late nights, which meant Sam hadn't leaked his piece, at least not yet. Maybe he was biding his time, maybe waiting for the perfect moment, but Maria had already revealed herself. As the meeting dragged on, I tried to keep my face neutral, but inside betrayal ripped through me worse than Sam's smirk. Maria had been my closest ally, the one I trusted with. My quiet doubts, my tired lunches, my bad jokes late at night. Now I realized she had been funneling my words straight upward all along. After the meeting, she leaned toward me, whispering, "See, not true about the project at all. Guess people like to exaggerate." Her eyes calm, her voice smooth like nothing had happened. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside, I wanted to scream. Back at my desk, I opened the hidden folder, saved every screenshot, every timestamp, both hers and Sam's two names side by side, in black and white proof of a conspiracy hiding in plain sight. That night, I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Two faces haunted me, one smirking, one smiling, both knives in the dark, and tomorrow I would have to decide how to bring it all crashing down. Which betrayal feels worse to you? The obvious arrogance of Sam or the hidden smile of Maria? The city lights blurred past the train window, but my mind wasn't on them. It was locked on two faces. Sam's sly grin, Maria's calm smile, two sides of betrayal tangled together. I clutched my phone tighter, scrolling through the screenshots again. The evidence solid, undeniable. By the time I reached my apartment, I already knew what I had to do tomorrow. I would reveal everything, but not in whispers, not in private. I would put it on display so no one could twist the story. No one could claim I was paranoid. I spent half the night preparing screenshots organized into a clean timeline. Slack messages, baited leaks. Bosses' repeated words, every piece lined up like dominoes. I added subtle notes, timestamps, and Slack IDs, cross-referencing with meeting recordings. It was airtight, a cage they couldn't escape from. Still, my stomach twisted with dread. This wasn't just about exposing them, it was about survival. What if the boss didn't thank me? What if he saw me as trouble for uncovering what he wanted to ignore? What if by bringing them down, I dragged myself with them? Sleep came in short, restless bursts, and when the alarm rang, I felt hollow but resolute. I packed my laptop, walked into the office like I was carrying fire, my chest tight, my pulse steady. By mid-morning, the chance arrived, a full team meeting scheduled for updates. I sat quietly waiting until the usual reports finished, then raised my hand, voice steady but louder than usual. Before we wrap up, there's something important we need to address. The room stilled, eyes turned. The boss's brow furrowed. I connected my laptop to the screen and pulled up the timeline of leaks, the evidence glowing for all to see. Slack messages, screenshots, meeting transcripts, every thread weaving into one damning picture. For weeks, our private conversations have been leaking upward. I said, my voice firmer than my shaking hands. I wanted to be sure before speaking up, so I tested it with false messages, both of which reached you word for word through Sam and Maria. Gasps spread across the table. Maria's face went pale. Her lips parted as if searching for words. Sam leaned forward, his smirk gone, replaced by stiff anger. The boss's eyes darted between the screen and the two of them. His jaw tight, the silence stretched sharp as glass, until finally he spoke. "This is serious. I'll need time to review this fully, but I cannot ignore what I'm seeing here," Maria whispered. "It's not what it looks like." Her voice trembling. Sam stayed silent, his fists clenched. I closed my laptop, slowly meeting both their eyes for the first time. I didn't flinch. The truth was out. The cage was built now. It was only a matter of who would break first. If you uncovered betrayal like this, would you reveal it publicly in front of everyone? Or privately to the boss first? The air in the room felt heavy after my reveal, silence pressing down like a storm cloud. Maria's hand shook against her notebook. Sam's jaw clenched, his eyes sharp on me, but for once, without that smug glint, the boss leaned back, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Both of you in my office now," he said. Finally, his voice low but firm, the kind that cut sharper than shouting. Sam stood first, stiff, his shoulders rigid. Maria followed slower, pale as paper. They disappeared behind the glass door blinds, snapping shut like a curtain. The rest of the team sat frozen, whispers, bubbling, questions spilling, but no one dared say much. I felt every eye on me, some filled with shock, others with something closer to admiration, but underneath it all, a chill crept in. What if I had overstepped? What if instead of seeing me as brave, the boss would see me as dangerous? Minutes crawled, the blinds stayed shut, voices inside muffled but sharp. My chest burned with every second. Then finally the door opened. Sam stormed out first, his face red, his bag already in his hand. He didn't look at anyone, didn't say a word, just left. Maria followed slower, her eyes wet, her lips pressed tight. She avoided my gaze too, walking straight out the door. The boss stepped out, his expression grave. "We'll issue a formal statement later, but for now both are suspended effective immediately." Gasps rippled across the room. I sat frozen, the words echoing suspended. Not fired, not yet. Maybe never, depending on how they spun it, but for now the leaks were plugged. The meeting ended in chaos, people rushing back to their desks, trading whispers. I sat still, the rush of adrenaline fading into a hollow ache. This was what I wanted, wasn't it? When a proof revealed, justice served, but instead of triumph, I felt only the weight of emptiness. That afternoon, Maria messaged me one last time. Just 4 words. "I thought we were friends." I stared at it, my throat tight. No reply came, my fingers hovering, then falling away. I closed the chat window for good. Sam never messaged, but I caught a glimpse of him days later outside the building, arguing on the phone. His anger spilling into the cold air, he looked smaller somehow, not the smug, untouchable man. I remembered just another coworker stripped of his secrets. Life at the office shifted after that, quieter, fewer whispers, but also colder. The trust we once had, fractured permanently. People watched their words type slower, glanced around before hitting send. Even I found myself hesitating, hovering over Slack messages, unsure who might twist them next. Weeks later, the boss called me into his office, thanked me for protecting the team, but his eyes lingered a beat too long. A reminder that even truth-tellers are dangerous when they hold too many secrets. I nodded, smiled, but inside, I knew nothing would ever feel safe again. I walked out head high, but heart heavy, realizing victory in the office doesn't always feel like winning. Do you think exposing the truth was worth the cost? Or should the protagonist have stayed silent to protect her peace?